Watching Big Egg clips at work, huh? Finally caught you. You're fired. Unless, of course, you found a way to get AI to do your job while you do this. In which case, you're future forward and you have an eye for technology and you're promoted. Unless, of course, the AI can do your job too well, in which case I will fire you to save the money on the salary. This is the type of logic that we're seeing all over the corporate environments in this country. AI has really thrown the employer-employee relationship into a tizzy, especially because on a base fundamental level, nobody's sure whether or not it's even helping productivity. And so I decided to talk to a fellow YouTuber and tech expert, Primeagen, about a number of AI layoff topics, but kicked off with Coinbase's recent 14% of the company AI layoffs. And I wanted to sort of get at what we're seeing there. So here's my conversation with Prime.
Well, thanks for having me. This one is a rather funny one because it's not just that there was a layoff. It's also that within 3 days, there was a 15-hour outage that everybody pointed to, as with all the reasons of the layoff, kind of laughing at it and using it as a means to make fun of more of Brian Armstrong and Coinbase at large. And so this one is a bit different, because it gives two reasons as opposed to the one reason standard. Because typically every letter you're seeing right now is like, hey, AI is changing the game, which, you know, in all reality, it is changing the game for a lot of big organizations. But they also go, oh, and there was other reasons as well. And so now it's a little bit harder to kind of understand what exactly is going on with Coinbase comparatively to a lot of these letters.
So there's this Wall Street Journal article that came out that said, AI is forcing CEOs to make a stark choice. Lay off workers or make them do more. And what I thought was so funny about this letter...
Wait, the title itself doesn't even make sense.
The title doesn't make a lot of sense, but Brian Armstrong said, I'll do both instantly. And like,
I
be open
thought
about
when
it.
you lay off somebody...
They're already doing more. I understand. No, I get what you're saying. It's a weird title to begin with, but that juxtaposition is not there at all in any way with Brian Armstrong. It's kind of a timeline here. This letter comes out first, and then later they report their Q1 earnings, which are not good. We'll get to that. And then there's the outage that you're talking about. But so the first thing people roasted is this letter, which talks about how they're going to flatten the organization. And that means that all middle managers are now individual contributors and they're going to manage more people. I think I don't have the...
So I can just read it for you. It says, we are flattening our org structure to 5 layers max. And then later on it says, the future small, high context teams that can move quickly. Leaders will own much more, with as many as 15 plus direct reports. Later on, it says, no peer managers. Every leader at Coinbase must also be a strong and active individual contributors. Managers should be like player coaches, getting their hands dirty alongside their team.
I had some immediate thoughts on that. I think that many people, especially people that are like, maybe are watching in my audience or my chat, there's a sense of like, oh, the manager. I hate my manager. The managers are bad guys. And in some cases, there are bad middle managers. I'm not knocking that. Having been a manager at some point in my career, like I was a manager at NVIDIA, the idea that you could do a good job as a full individual contributor and managing 15 people is bullshit. It's not possible. I don't mind if he wants to make a flatter org and have fewer managers and more, that's fine. But to say you have to do both just means you're going to do everything worse.
Like, what does a VP do then? Because it just sounds like he wants VPs to just be regular managers at that point, plus be individual contributors. Because if they're getting their hands dirty, because remember, it doesn't just say, hey, do a little bit of coding. Yeah. It says specifically that they must be strong and active individual contributors. Now, I only read that as somebody who's really getting after it. So it's like, okay, so what does a director do who takes information from a VP and is meant to execute on that vision down the org chart?
He gets in there and keeps coding, bro.
It's like, how does that even work? Like, how do you talk to 15? Like, because remember, I mean, you know this probably better than a lot of people, that directors at this point are going to be really large picture into smaller picture, right? Like, not actual boots on the ground stuff, but, you know, getting close to that. How do they organize that many big projects that are going to be across effectively 225 engineers with also trying to get their hands dirty and trying to make sense of any sort of project level stuff? Like, I can't even fathom this. I keep thinking, it's like, honestly, I've stayed up last night just thinking about, like, how does somebody even do this?
They justifiably got roasted by a lot of people for this. This doesn't seem to make sense as a sustainable way to organize your business. I think if people legitimately tried it, they get burnt out instantly. And what they'll probably do is fake it. You skirt it, you get around it, you try to find ways to pretend. I think when people, often the people at the quote unquote bottom of this pyramid who are doing a lot of the actual work and are being directed down to by the director levels, they don't want someone else meddling in the code base.
Yes, that was honestly, I still remember this like so vividly. It was 2012, I think it was. My boss did like a drive-by PR, and he just merged it in because, executive power, right?
Yeah.
And I spent 3 days going through a merge conflict, long technical terms saying, hey, code doesn't mesh together well. And it just took so long for me to untangle what was happening. And I, from that day forward, was like, I never want a boss just committing ever again. Now, I think a lot of what they're going to say here, this is me just trying to steel man what they're going to say, is, okay, now with the power of AI, whatever that means, in whoever's book at this point, is that every single leader should be able to look at like the website or the product and say, ooh, I don't like this interaction, change it. Which also is just so hard for organization because there's going to be so many people going, I don't like this interaction, change it. But just 3 days ago, VP Carl over there changed it because he didn't like it. Now you're changing it. Like, it's going to cause so much chaos.
I want to get to the business side real quick because my takeaway here, I don't know the tech side, but it seems more clearly when you look at the earnings that just came out and the fact that the stock is down 33% in the past 6 months, that this is not a layoff entirely driven by, okay, AI is going to make us leaner. It seems a lot more like they just lost $394 million, which, by the way, last year at the same time, they were making $66 million. So it's a big change.
Oh, you got to also throw in that they had a 3,500% surprise on the EPS miss, earnings per share miss for this quarter. They thought they're going to go +4 positive and went $1.46 negative.
Yeah. And
very shocking.
This guy put it out, which is that, okay, revenue's down 30% year over year. But more importantly, when you look at Coinbase as a business, they really only make money when there is a frenzy of crypto trading, not even crypto holding. So if you're someone who buys Bitcoin in Coinbase and leaves it there, they're not making money off of you, or not a significant amount. They make all of their money when there's a frenzy of activity where you're buying, selling. That mania has dried up. What's interesting is like it almost doesn't matter what all of their employees are even working on. It's like the reliability of the site or new features are the biggest driver right now. The driver is whether or not crypto has a lot of activity. It's what you see from all these companies. It feels like a magic word where it's like, I'm not laying people off because my business isn't doing well. I'm laying people off because I'm future forward, innovative, taking on AI with the site for the future. That's what it feels like.
I could buy that just because, if you read their letter, they do talk about how crypto's on the verge of the next wave, which means it's not currently on a wave.
Right.
Like that's how I personally read that. And it talks about like prediction markets and tokenization and stable coins. Like none of those, like stable coins is for daily transactions. That's not going to do a lot for exchanges, right? That's going to do something, assuming that crypto becomes the mode of actual transportation of wealth, then yes, that makes a lot of sense that individuals with some sort of version of Visa is going to make money, but I'm not sure if Coinbase is going to make any money off of more usage of stablecoin. I don't know all the ways. I did try to watch their earnings announcement, but it had the Subway Surfer on at the same time. I don't know if you saw that. And I couldn't actually focus because I unfortunately don't have Gen Z brain rot. And so I was really struggling.
They're always doing meme stuff. Did you see, there's a previous earnings where he like pulled up the Kalshi of things he was supposed to say and then listed them all off at the end so all the bets went positive. Like there's a lot of memes in there.
That's market manipulation. I mean, that's also, that is actually crazy that he did that.
But so I wanted to bring up two examples here of similar thing. You've covered one of these. So one of them was Klarna, which replaced 700 workers in their customer service department with quote unquote AI. They were supposed to be AI forward. This is back in May. And then, then they realized it wasn't working and had to bring them back. So that was an actual AI layoff, not just like the business is down.
Yes.
It's like they're trying to replace them, and it ended up not being so successful. They're now plotting a recruitment drive because people want the option of speaking to a real person. So that didn't work. But then the other one was Salesforce, and you literally covered this. I was looking for it, and I found your video. So I'll review. You remember what happened there?
So Salesforce, they drove a lot of their AI innovation. And saying, hey, we're going to need less and less people. And then, of course, exact same thing happens. It just turns out you can't give all of the decision-making off to a robot. This is not the Travelers. This is not some future distant quantum AI in which makes decisions for all of human race. It is just a, word go in, word go out, next token predictor, which is super convenient. But people are kind of giving off the idea that you don't need decision makers anymore. And then they, of course, what do? They start firing everybody. And then as they predicted inside of this specific letter, that I forget their sales force, they had like a really cool term for it, like marketing force or something like that, right? Whatever it was, strike force. And it did not end up yielding the internal efficiencies that they were hoping that it would yield. Naturally, of course, which means that they're going, okay, we actually have to hire back people. It's like the classic story over and over again.
I think you've been more skeptical than the average person in tech that I've seen over AI, which is why I think you're an interesting perspective on this. But it's not like it's not helping in some cases. Like, it's clearly an innovation. It's clearly doing something.
Yes.
What's hard to figure out is it's happening at the same time as other forces that would push things like layoffs and other forces that would like incentivize you as a leader to pretend you're doing something really great with it because it makes your stock go up. It makes you seem like a real. So it's this weird dynamic where it's hard to figure out where the juice is and where the bullshit is. It seems like there's a lot of bullshit wrapped around it. I'm wondering, I don't know what you're seeing and hearing.
So I'd say the most obvious version that you can look at today. I'm not saying that AI is worthless. I think some people use it better, some people use it worse, and I can give you a really good example of that. But use any product. It feels more buggy than it ever has before. Sure, there's many more features than we've ever had before. Things feel like they're changing, quote unquote, faster, or there's more individual products popping up. But I also just feel kind of this like slopware revolution where everything just kind of feels a bit broken. So for me, that's like the boots on the ground reality, is that things just feel more unstable than they've ever felt before. Now, this could just be perception. This could be Twitter influencing my brain to see it more, right? Whatever it is. But I think the more important thing to kind of think about is that let's just pretend for a second that AI is, in fact, a force multiplier. You were a manager. You've been in a larger company. You said you were at NVIDIA, right?
Yeah.
Would you want every person's force to be multiplied by 10 when you were working at NVIDIA? Or were there some people you would rather have them be maybe a little bit slower or less impactful at the company?
That's such a polite way to put it.
I'm trying to be nice here. This is not my channel. I'd say it differently, but
yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah, I think there's. It's funny because in the pursuit of max efficiency and every single person getting max contribute, you're going to end up with a lot of, first of all, bad stuff, but then also weird over. Like, I think what most companies fail on is not output. It's vision. It's like getting everyone aligned on the same idea and working in that direction.
If you look at a lot of the people that have gone from like nothing to being super successful, a very at least common trait among many of them is going to be this idea of persistence. Like, hey, I had an idea. I worked on it for years upon years. I sold it. I iterated. I thought about it deeply. I took super, super long until I really started getting product market fit and really thought about it. Now, I think a lot of the AI maxis will be like, oh, well, now you can just do that cycle super fast. But I would argue that to get to those ideas, it takes a long time. You can't just simply come up with a good idea right away. Like sometimes you'll see an interaction say, okay, yeah, that's bad. I can fix this, but it's a very myopic look. Like your actual direction and vision and the ability to persist is super difficult. And it's even more difficult, especially the persistent side, when you can pivot on a dime so much faster now. Like to me, it's almost a worse thing now because people can change their minds so quick. Before you actually had to really be careful. Every decision you made actually had a real direct cost in both time and money. Now it's like, make it happen, number one, and you'll get a slop version of it, but all of a sudden you're moving way faster. Like these can be very dangerous things at the exact same time.
What's interesting is, so all these companies, even the ones that aren't doing layoffs yet, are mandating as much AI usage as possible because they want to make sure that they're as future forward as they can be. And I know you're hearing this from programmers, and I had an example here from Coinbase. This is from last year where the CEO said, this is like earlier in some of the new AI tools. He explains why he fired engineers who didn't try AI immediately. He was calling them into his office if they didn't in 1 week do a full
Well, yeah, I wonder what it means to try AI, because I'd be pretty blown away that if somebody promised you an instantaneous work solver, that you wouldn't go, okay, yeah, show me. But does he mean using it and adopting it purely as the way you do it? Then that's crazy, right? Like,
isn't it? It feels crazy. It feels like, I mean, some of the blowback from this, people got fired who were apparently on vacation. Like it was like a 1 week, he sent out a 1 week email, like if you don't try AI in this first week,
Oh,
then
I
you're
do
fired.
remember
Yeah.
this. I do remember this. Yeah.
And so, but okay, so that kind of pressure is happening in a lot of different places. And I found this example from, I think today or yesterday. In a natural response, human beings at Amazon are just finding ways to fake it because they still have to do the job. And sometimes the AI can't do the job in the way that they need to do it. So they're literally getting tools that artificially inflate their token count.
Yep.
So they seem like they're a massive user of AI so they can get promoted. But it's just Amazon paying for them to burn tokens.
Now, I wouldn't be a good tech person
Yeah.
if I didn't cite a law at least one time during a talk.
Okay.
But this one's Goodhart's law. Have you heard of it?
I have not. I'd love to
When
hear
a
it.
measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure. And the problem is once you tell people token spend is the means in which we measure how well you're using AI, brother, I could spend $250,000 in a year. If that is my measurement, if this
Right.
means I get more money personally,
Yeah.
I will come up with the most insane build system of all time just to make this happen. Like that is just the worst possible motivation for anybody. Not that you won't make a lot of change. It's just that there's no direct relation between a token and a unit of work. Even though we like to pretend there is,
Right.
there is no one for one. So someone who spends 10x more tokens does not mean they do 10x more work.
Well, the Amazon payment system would disagree. And I saw there was another article, I don't know if I have it in here, but it was called The Rise of AI Work Slop. And it was basically like everyone is finding a way to just pass the buck onto someone else using it. Like if you have to write a report, you can generate that in 2 seconds, but then the person has to actually read it and like make actionable choices off that. Well, that's the hard work. And now you've just passed it on to them. And
That's it. I've never even thought about that.
Yeah.
That is like such an I mean, it's so obvious from a programmer side of point because I think of it as like code reviews.
Yeah.
But just like as in just internal communication, like that you just blew my mind right there on that one. Speaking of Amazon that you have up right there,
Yeah.
they also just got done releasing that all senior engineers, like no code can make it into production without a senior engineer signing off on it, while simultaneously saying, hey, juniors and mid-level engineers really need to be using AI. And so I genuinely feel bad for a lot of the seniors there because like their full job now has just become a nonstop review of just these slop things, where just like you're saying, that the buck is being passed off onto them to be like, no, this is wrong. Go like they're prompting people who are prompting.
Yeah, I mean, I assume at this point, they're just taking it and running it through AI and asking it to review. Back to Coinbase. As you mentioned, the sort of the wrapper for this whole story is that like 1 week after this big letter where we have to lay off huge percentage of the company, 14% of the company, everyone has to work harder. We're going to be individual contributors. We're going to push this forward. There's just this massive outage you talked about. And I was wondering if you can go more into anything you heard about that. I mean, it's like the timing is...
No, the timing is very, very beautiful.
It was AWS though, right? Like it's not like,
well, all right. So it's really difficult to say that it's AWS's fault, and here's why: is that AWS is a hyperscaler. It provides you the infrastructure for you to be able to host your product, and so they have things called regions. A region would be something like US East 1, which is in Virginia, or US East 2, which is in Ohio, or I like to jokingly refer to as US Middle East 1. Now, with any of these regions, there's also availability zones within it. So US East 1A, B, and C, they can be up to about 60 miles apart from each other, or 100 kilometers for my EU folks. They have separate power, they have separate internet, they have separate physical security, they have separate staff. Everything about it is meant to be separate so that if you use, say, US East 1, and one of the buildings explode, well, there's still 2 more, right? Like it's okay because you have yourself kind of spread out, say in this availability zones. You should always be in multiple availability zones. And if you can't for whatever reason, which apparently I was streaming this morning, talked with a bunch of chat about this because I didn't understand this, which is why wasn't Coinbase in many availability zones? Well, in high frequency trading, it is extremely important to have like no millisecond delay. And so by being all in one singular zone, effectively you're saying, hey, our latency is as low as it possibly can be because you're concerned about 1 millisecond, which is not something the average web dev or me would ever be concerned about, is 1 millisecond of internet latency. They're claiming, yes, this is super important. The thing that's strange is that when their AZ went down, by the way, it went down because turns out AC just quit working. Things got too hot, but when it went down, there was no evacuation. Their main exchange just was like, bro, we're in 1A and that's all we're ever going to be in. We refuse to be anywhere else. So for 15 hours, they couldn't like do anything because they couldn't move their exchange from 1A to 1B. And so like, I totally get, hey, This is a special case scenario, which I personally don't understand. Apparently there's talks at QCon about how the performance and all these things are super hypercritical. Sure, I'm not a crypto trader. I don't understand it. I'm not a high frequency trader, not a quant boy. Sure, I can make that argument, but not to be able to just go to one zone to another. Like, that has to be an engineering failure. That is no longer this tight requirement failure. So when I read this, I don't read AWS failing. This just happens. You should be prepared for this. This is why they call them availability zones and make multiple in one area, right? So that when inevitably they go down, you can just shift over by effectively 60 miles and have the same performance relative to the whole greater region.
I'm also not a crypto bro quant guy, but I can tell you that even those people, they're not systems engineers and they just wanted to use their product. I mean, they were freaking out because the outage was long enough that many of them lost a lot of money or markets were moving or whatever. And so if you're providing a service and you're talking about how AI is going to make you level up, and then immediately after, it's the worst service you could imagine. You got to imagine that people who are extremely active crypto traders might be considering other platforms if outages like that were frequent, or even not even frequent. If they ever happen, it increases the risk of like, oh, I could lose a bunch of money if I'm a daily crypto trader. So the last thing I want to ask you is, it's more of like a philosophical question because you're more in the weeds on hearing what programmers are saying. And I want to get a sense, is this wider AI layoff situation that we've always talked about today. And it's just hard for me to grasp a accurate picture of its effectiveness. You know, I 100% agree that it's different and it's new and it does improve some things. But what I'm trying to get a sense of is like, the mood is clearly turning on it in America, at least, where people are getting a little more angry at data centers and AI layoffs. And I think part of that, because I'm someone who's used AI for some things, quizzing myself and learning, and I found it to be useful in those things. But I'm wondering whether or not it's a marketing problem, or if it's like, is there some real use there, but it's being constantly sold as like, this will take your job, the data centers are going to increase the cost of electricity? Or is there some real underlying, like, it's just not that useful? You're someone who's experimented with it a lot, you've tried it a lot. What is your takeaway on how AI is impacting your workflow, or what you're seeing from other people? And are you an outlier, or are you, you can just talk me through it.
First and foremost, I will put let me just first give my AI credentials, if you will. Okay. So I've built some plugins for Vim. I use Vim, by the way. And they've gotten thousands upon thousands of stars about different ways in which I think AI is very effective to be used in individual programming and all that kind of stuff. I've experimented with it for quite some time. Nat Friedman, previous CEO of GitHub, gave me early access to Copilot, the very first version of this. And so I was using it from the very beginning, and I've experimented with it effectively every single month since late 2022, I think, is when Copilot came out.
Okay.
And so I have a decent idea of some things that it can do. There's things that I still don't understand about it. And so let me put it this way. There are a set of tasks in which it is absolutely incredible. It will save you just an inordinate amount of time. A very simple one is that for video editing on my channel, I upload a video. I change some things in Notion. It tags all the right people, let them know things are going. They're starting to communicate. As they change things, more notifications come out. We built that all with vibe coding. It's because there's no, we're not worried about security. We're not worried about a bunch of stuff. We just want it to work. And it doesn't really matter the quality of the software, long as at the end of the day, when we do all these things, everyone's getting notified and we can all move in lockstep. And so that is a huge multiplier that is very, very useful to us. It is not something I'd go out there and sell because it's probably pretty weird on the inside, right? We'd have to do a lot of time actually making it into something that'd be useful production-wise. But there's also this kind of opposite side that I see a lot of people having. One kind of interesting result of AI is that people become too easily saying yes to things because they have this idea that it's really cheap to generate. The biggest group of people right now that I see are people that are just starting project after project and taking it somewhere and then quitting. And so does it actually make your life better? Yeah, there's plenty of things that it can do that will dramatically make your life better. Is it the end all be all in this current iteration? No. Anybody who 2 years ago said the AI was amazing and it's taken everybody's job, I largely discount their opinion because the AI was not good. 2 years ago, it would generate absolutely some of the worst things ever, and it couldn't do any of the agent stuff. I was always so shocked by that. At least today, you could argue you could build something that appears to work.
Yeah.
That by all like outside observation appears to work. Now, will it scale? Will it do all that stuff? That's a whole different argument. You can't just build, say, Vercel by hitting a prompt and being like, yo, no mistakes, build Vercel. And so when I see these things, that's kind of where it really lands for me is, yes, you can move faster, you can do better research, you can get more information out, but it's still like, I'm still limited by some simple things like a code review. I want to make sure that on the projects I care about, I'm producing the code I want to produce. That means it takes time. Like I'm not really getting vastly faster in any kind of sense. On the things that I don't care about, yeah, super fast. So that's kind of like my general thought right now of AI is that it's just such a two-edged sword, and it makes your good ideas go fast sometimes and also makes your bad ideas go super fast. And that's like such a big problem. And I've seen a lot of people who, like I said earlier, aren't the people that I want a lot of impact at a company having, but it's not my job to hire or fire them. But they now can make 10x the impact that they were before, or even 100x because they were so bad at what they were doing.
To bring it back to the very beginning, when I think about it more, the last person I would want to be able to just jump in and make changes would be the person who's never been an individual contributor who's up really high in the org chart. So I don't know. It's not that I don't see the benefit. I really do think this is a cool technology, and I think machine learning in general is going to have some incredible impacts in a lot of ways. But in the workplace and in school, it seems like there's a lot of like immediate negative ramifications that are kind of being brushed over in the name of a higher stock price.
I'm super worried about the school stuff, by the way.
Oh yeah, that's the worst
just
of all.
because.
Yeah.
For me, like personal note, the greatest time in my life, the thing that really taught me that I can do something is when I took Calc 1. I was coming off of all sorts of bad decisions before that, and I took it during summer school, which I did like 2 hours. I forget how long the class was. And then I'd leave and go into like 3 hours of extracurricular like math tutoring center. And I did this every single day, just nonstop. And I remember going from not feeling capable to just like through sheer will and time going and being like, oh, actually, I'm really good at this now. And like with that, I learned something, which is that I'm no longer like learned helplessness. I've learned that no, actually, I can accomplish anything. And I think a lot of people, I think we're going to see a great wave of learned helplessness. Every time they have a problem, anytime that you have to think critically from a very young age, you're like, ChatGPT, write my essay. ChatGPT, tell me about this. Just that you're not engaging like you used to be forced to. I'm not saying that we all need to do like throw away our calculators and only should do math by hand.
Yeah, I know. It's a weird, I feel you. It's a weird balance because I'm not a Luddite by any measure of the imagination. I really do. I'm excited by new tech, but it just feels the way this is hitting is not, I just feel like I'm being sold a false bill in some situations. But anyway, it was good talking to you, Prime. I would love to check in again. This AI stuff is only going to be a bigger story as we go forward. And I'm sure there'll be good and bad to come from it. And it's good to check in with you and hear what's going on the programming side.